go ahead and start because I know you guys are anxious to get back in the horse floor. And my name is Ray Williams. I'm past president of the Colonial Coin Collectors Club. I'm an officer of the state organization in New Jersey, the Garden State Numismatic Association. And as a side hobby, I metal detect. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. And for some of you, this is basics and you know it, but metal detecting is just the hobby of locating metal that's underground or underwater. That's it. And why would you do it? It's good exercise, which I need to get back metal detecting a little more often, which is quite obvious. We don't need to go any further on that account. But it's fresh air, it's relaxing, it's like fishing. You get away from home, you put the headphones on, you're listening for that tone and the tone variation, and you forget about work or the bills and everything. It's a wonderful hobby. It can also be productive. I don't suggest quitting your day job and metal detecting full-time to pay the bills and buy your food, but it can supplement your hobby, and as you become proficient with it, your fines can pay for the equipment and upgrading the equipment, and maybe at some point a little bit more. It's really a lot of fun. The machines are varied. There are machines for different purposes, for land hunting, water hunting, for mining in the mountains, going after silver, gold, metals and streams, especially out west. I don't know if that's done too much around here, but down south, I believe in Georgia and the Carolinas, they go after gold, and there are special coils for that. But let me first just show the machine. Over here to my left is an old metal detector I use. Whenever I metal detect, I always wear headphones, and the reason for that is there's several different reasons. First, it blocks out outside noises. You get less distractions. Rather than using a speaker, you hear it here. If you use the speaker, kids from all over will hear the beeping from 100 yards away and come and they'll try to find out what you're doing. But for the purposes of being here, I'm going to disconnect the headphones so that you can all hear what I'm doing. Hi, Jason.
How are you?
We have a few more people coming in. Good.
So,
Good to see you.
Great seeing you. Want to go in the back row here?
And when you're detecting most machines, you'll be listening to a constant tone in the background, and you're listening for that tone to change somehow. When you hear something like that, you have a target, but you don't necessarily know what the target is. In this instance, it was a buffalo nickel, and my particular machine is reading on the meter that it is a nickel. Now, just because it says it's a nickel doesn't mean it's a nickel, but if it's a coin, it probably is a nickel. It could also be a gold ring, and that gold and nickels and pop can tops, pull tabs all read around the nickel range. And the machines do discriminate. Some discriminate better than others. This particular machine, in addition to the meter telling you what the probable target ID is, you can hear a difference in the tone. So as you become experienced, you don't even need to look at the meter to know whether it's a penny, nickel, dime, or quarter. Let me find a piece of iron here. That's iron. A very low pitch, a nickel, a higher pitch, a dime, a higher pitch, a quarter, and a $50. And it should go up a little higher for a silver dollar, but I've never found a silver dollar yet. Now, when you're metal detecting, there are two modes. You can go into all metal mode, which will detect everything, and it will also go deeper. I had to set a little sensitive, but you can hear a variation in the tone with the coin 12 to 15 inches away. Ground conditions will affect how deep you can go. If it's moist, or if the coin's been buried a long time, there's something that people call a halo effect, which will make the coin seem larger than it is to the coils in a metal detecting head. So ground conditions have a lot to do with it. Yes?
Yeah, related to that, Ray, so beach, I mean, I like to go down to the beach, I'm sure a lot of people do. Wetter, yeah, how does that affect it? You said ground conditions.
Well, it all depends on the mineralization.
Oh, okay.
There are land machines that will not work in wet sand. It will cut the depth down to like an inch or two, and it has to be right up near the surface, while other machines, based on their frequency and how they operate, are designed for the beach, where wet mineralized sand won't affect them. They're underwater machines and pulse machines and BFO machines, but we were kidding around about that before. The old BFO machines were basically the mine detectors that the Army people used during World War II to locate mines, and they came back and had fun using them as a hobby. In the normal operating modes, you need to keep the metal detector operating. If you hold the coin over, if you just hold the coin there, there's no change in tone. So you have to be constantly swinging. If you take how deep the coin is, the head is circular, so let's say it's this wide, its pickup pattern is conical. So the deeper the coin is, the closer it needs to be to the center. So if you just randomly walk along, you are going to miss all the deep targets. You need to walk and overlap your swings so that that cone, one swing is here, one swing is here, one swing is here. If you don't overlap, you'll have a swing here and a swing here, and you're missing 90% of the targets that are deep. That's the biggest secret to finding the old coins. Overlap your swings. Many of these machines have batteries that are rechargeable. You plug them in. I have regular alkaline batteries in here right now. There are a lot of different modes you can reject certain things. Say if you're in an area that has a lot of iron, you can set this to reject the iron and only hear something that's like a nickel or above. I use it in mode where I hear everything. If you go on a battlefield, all these targets right here are from the Gettysburg area. And if you go on a battlefield, you want the iron pieces, the pieces that came off cannons. And I've never found a cannonball. Someday, hopefully, I will. But in certain areas, everything iron is junk, and you want to delete that. There are notch filters where instead of just eliminating the iron on one side, it will eliminate, say, pull tabs here, but still get the iron and still get the coins. So depending on your purposes. Yes?
A somewhat related question related to that is, do you know anything about Valley Forge Park and just going into big national parks in general? Is it frowned upon? Is it illegal?
It's very frowned.
Right.
State and federal parks, it is illegal. You will be arrested, almost like a drug dealer. Your car will be confiscated, you'll be thrown in jail, and you will be fined. Right. And there are probably other ramifications too. Now, you can go into some state parks, but you need to get a permit ahead of time. So you need to call where you're going. When it comes to finding the location, well, before I get on to that topic, does anybody have any questions first about machines and just general operation? Okay, machines vary in price from $59 at Radio Shack to the $1,700 for state-of-the-art and everything in between. If you're going to do this for the first time, it would probably be best to see if there's a local metal detecting store and seeing if you can rent one of his used machines. This way you can get out in the field, you can try it, you can see if you like it, and if you want this as a hobby, rather than going right out and buying a $500 or $1,000 machine, finding out it's not for you and it just sits in the closet and collects dust. But if you're going to do it seriously, you have to spend at least $500 or $500 on a machine to get good results. And you have to be patient. results don't come immediately. You need to do your research. You need to find places that will have what you're looking for. If you're after jewelry, that's probably going to be beaches, the shore, lakes, campgrounds, things like that. If you're looking for coins, a lot of people around my area in New Jersey will get permissions from farmers when they have their fields plowed under and nothing's growing. They'll walk the fields and look for broken pieces of shell and brick, and it's an indication that there was an old colonial house there. Then they'll go around that area looking for old coins, and that works well for them. Picnic grounds, parks, school grounds, but you always need to make sure that wherever you are, it's legal to be metal detecting where you are. I heard recently that Virginia just passed some laws about metal detecting. I don't know exactly what they are, but if you're going to take your metal detector on vacation, check ahead of time and what the rules and regulations are. I don't know exactly. You could call a metal detecting dealer in that area, or if there aren't any, call the police in that area. Just say you're going to be visiting on vacation. You metal detect as a hobby. Are there areas, anything you should be concerned about? But always ask permission. On private property, I've found that it's much easier to get permission if you have a woman, for some reason, go up and knock on the door to ask, rather than a guy. I don't know why that is, but I metal detect with my wife's cousin's wife and her friend, and they seem to get permission to get to places that I would think I would never get permission to go to. So use whatever you can for your advantage to get where you can. Okay. Now, what was your question before, Jason?
I was asking about Valley Forge Park, national parks, areas like that.
National parks, federal parks and state parks, definitely stay away from. When I was in Gettysburg metal detecting, where I was right on the border of a national park. And there were park rangers there kind of watching, and if we stepped 1 foot into the creek that was on the borderline there, we could have been in trouble. But you need to, and this was back in the very early 80s, but you need to ask permission. Okay. With respect to what you can, it depends what. Research is so important, and it's also very frustrating. I've researched some areas that I know where there were picnic grounds in the 1700s, and I check it out on the map, I get there, and there's a big parking lot. And it's all under pavement, and just because...
That's when you get out your pick and start chopping.
Well, I dream about that. But there are so many areas that would be potentially good for metal detecting. Metal detectors also cooperate with archaeologists, too. There's an organization in New Jersey called Bravo. I don't know if you've heard of it. They're up around the Freehold area. And actually state and federal parks that have battlefields have invited them in to metal detect in the fields and find targets. And they do it scientifically, like an archaeologist would, and they would label the depth where it is, the whole site that's being metal detected is gridded out. And so all the information is there, and then these items are then given to the organization that asked them to come in and do this. And they've been quite successful and established a very good reputation. As with all hobbies, whether it's coin collecting, metal detecting, there are always a few people out there who are not upstanding citizens, and they should be discouraged. You should not try to sneak onto places where you shouldn't be and get in trouble. It gives everybody a black eye. When you metal detect in a field, you shouldn't leave a mess. You should bring your trash back out with you, cover your holes. You should always just treat the property as though it was your own property. With respect to retrieving targets, there are a number of ways to retrieve in the ocean or lakes. If you're actually in the water, there are long scoops with, it's like a sieve, where you can scoop down into the sand or dirt, pull up the target, shake it, and everything just goes out the bottom, and the target's left in the scoop. And this enables people to metal detect in water up to their head level. I've seen them out there that deep. With respect to land, people use different methods, and I metal detect mostly in the land, on ground. And what I do is I have a Clorox bottle with the bottom cut off and the metal removed from the cap. And in the Clorox bottle, I have a trowel and a large knife. And with the knife, when I center the target on the ground, and I have it centered, with the knife, I'll cut like 3/4 of a circle around the center of where I think the target is. Then I'll flip that over on the little hinge, and then with the metal detector, I'll determine if it's in the plug or in the hole. If it's in the hole, then with the trowel, I'll dig down the hole and put all that dirt inside the Clorox bottle, wave it in front of the head until I hear a beep, and I know I have it in the Clorox bottle. Then it's a simple matter of reaching in and finding it, and all the dirt goes back in the hole, and you flip the plug over and stomp it down, and nobody knows you were ever there. And no damage. It's like replacing a divot for a golfer, and it works out well. People that leave holes there or plugs, somebody's going to step in them and twist an ankle. It's not good. And then if you dig up trash or a can or something, take it away with you. Don't leave it there and mess up the field. Yes.
Hey, Ray, like Washington Crossing, the Delaware River.
That's a state park.
Have you? Oh, you can't go there.
Can't go anywhere near that.
I've been across.
Because they had the floods up there,
Yeah.
recently, and you would think that would be a good area to.
Oh, it'd be a great area.
You would think, right?
But you would think. I think that too, but you can't get in. I've been on the New Jersey side across the canal from it on a piece of private property, and but I've never been over to Washington's Crossing.
Right, another thing that people talk about a lot for as good sites are construction sites. Anywhere where they're digging up, like putting in a new foundation, they might be digging deep, and they might have a big pile where they're just kind of dumping the stuff. Obviously, permission would apply, but have you ever been to those types of sites? How do you feel about construction sites?
Well, I'm in favor of any site that has a good possibility of having targets. I was down in Virginia where on a farmer's field, and the farmer sold it to a construction company that was putting up a strip mall. And we went in, asked permission, and the construction people said, well, as long as you stay out of our way, it's fine. And I was after Civil War artifacts, musket balls and mini balls. I wasn't having a real good day with that. Then a local came up to me and started telling me about the troop movements and everything. And then he mentioned in passing, and I just found coins from King George III and early large cents up near the road. And I said, wow, can I see them? And he said, well, I don't collect those. I gave it to that guy driving away in the truck. Oh. And then I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right, that's going to happen. He said, I collect buttons, that's all I collect. But I listened to him. He was very nice, giving me good information about troop movements. And I thanked him. We parted. I continued detecting the middle of the field, nothing. I went up towards the road, and I started finding mini balls and little caps, percussion caps for Civil War pistols. And then I found this. And I believe he found what he found and gave it away. This is one quarter of a pistorine. 1723. A pistorine is a 2 real coin minted in Spain rather than being minted in the New World. This is what it would look like if it wasn't, line it there, if it wasn't cut in quarters. That's a 1723 pistorine.
Looks like it was made to cut in quarters with that design. It was like perfect.
Well, that's what they used the cross for, and a cross pistorine. And there was just enough on the back. The mint mark for this is the aqueduct on the left side of the coin underneath the R. That's the mint mark for the Segovia Mint. And on my quarter piece, you can see see the very top of the aqueduct there. And I was quite happy to find that. It's not a valuable thing. They sell on eBay for maybe $30 or $40, but to find a piece of history where their economy was so bad they found it necessary to cut coins into pieces, in order
Wow.
to perform commerce.
Looks like somebody took 2 shots at that one too. There's like a cut, there's a crease and then the cut. So it looks like they tried
Right.
and then
They did. They gave
Did
it
it
a
again.
trial punch, didn't like it, moved it, and then gave
Yeah.
it the real punch. And I find these cut in 2 different manners, with a chisel, like this one is, where they stay
Oh,
flat.
chisel.
I've also found them cut with shears. And when you cut a coin with shears, the coin bends. And if the coin, a cut coin is bent, it's probably cut with shears. Talk about centering. When I center, I make a cross motion with the coil and reduce the sensitivity until I get it to a little spot, and I put my finger on that spot on the ground, and then I cut with my knife. Now, just to show you how accurately I center coins, I have a Barber $50 here. And you can see on the coin where I pivoted my knife, doing the 2 cuts to make the semicircle right on the center of that coin. You can't get much closer to the center for, how is that for pinpointing a coin? It's, that's one of the risks you run into. And after I did this, for the most part, when I cut the plugs, I cut more straight down rather than at an angle. So that I don't do that again. The knife goes straight down, I cut around, lift the plug out. Instead of cutting a cone out of the ground, I try to cut like a cylinder. And there are all types. I've got up here just a little pile of coins there that some friends pulled aside that said that they're worth more than scrap. I've got a little pile of old copper coins that are from the colonial times up to probably the 1850s for large cents, and a little pile of $50, pile of quarters, pile of Barber dimes. Then I have a group of miscellaneous, just fun stuff. And it doesn't have to be expensive to be fun.
Are these all things you found?
Yes. Yeah, I've found everything on this table.
Now, do you ever sell any of it, or do you always keep it?
Back in '83, I sold enough gold and silver to buy a '68 Shelby GT500. Wish I still had it.
Right. The silver or the Shelby?
Both.
But which were you talking about?
Well, I missed that car.
You were talking about the silver, though, probably.
I was actually talking about the car.
Okay.
And you always get more silver. Shelbys don't grow on trees.
That's true.
This right here is a ring from like Pac-Con, where they used to have this merry-go-round where you grab the ring for the prize. I have lots of skeleton keys. This particular type key is a railroad switch key. I don't know too much about it. I don't know what they switch, but it's something to do with railroads, and they switch something. And I'm guessing from where I found these and how deep they were, they're probably from like the 30s or 40s.
Where'd you find those, Rick?
Watchung Park in Bloomfield. And I remember my dad telling me about casting lead toys, soldiers, Indians, when he was a kid. And this is a nice example of a lead cast Indian. And we'll stand up. 1955 dog tag, dogs lose them. And a $1 bill. Now, the machine's not going to detect it, but if I see this on the bottom of a lake bed, I'm going to pick it up anyway. So you got to keep your eyes open, because sometimes there are artifacts out there. I have friends at Metal Detect, and they have beautiful arrowhead collections, because they eyeball them when they're out there detecting. They're normally a much different color than anything else on the ground, and they look like they don't belong, and they have nice collections. But even if it's torn and ragged, I don't pass up a $1 bill.
A lot of bottles, too.
Yes, bottles. This is, let me see if I can, well, this is an Indian head penny that was cut and made into a washer, which I thought was fascinating. I'm going to relocate the camera here and go freehand. I have some silver jewelry here, and artifacts, spoons, some silver rings, silver chains, a lot of just general silver there. And I have a little container with mostly gold, but most of it is gold, chain and rings. I've found a fair number of rings. I'm not really a water or a beach detectorist, but I've been able to return 2 of them, and it's the greatest feeling in the world. I found a 1960 Trenton Catholic high school ring, and I had a friend help me locate the guy. He had one of these long Italian names I can't pronounce, and he was in Kentucky. So I called him on the phone, and I said, I'm looking for so-and-so, and he said, well, I'm he, and I said, did you go to Trenton Catholic? He said, yes. And then I made him tell me what year he graduated, just to make sure, and he said, 1960. And I said, I think I found something you lost. And he says, what's that? And I said, your high school ring. Now, this is more than 40 years after he lost it.
Wow.
The phone went dead on the other side. He says, really, where did you find it? And I said, well, it was about 3 feet to the right of the pitcher's mound, towards third base in Cadwalter Park. And he said, wow. And I said, you lost this almost as soon as you got it, didn't you? And he said, now, how would you know that? But the ring had no chips on the stone. The ring looked perfect. So I knew he didn't have it for too long. And he said that his family was too poor to buy another one, so he just did without. So I verified his address and shipped it to him.
Wow.
And he said the only thing more amazing than finding his ring 40 years later was finding him down in Kentucky. And then the other ring, I didn't actually talk to this person, but I communicated with him, and it was a 1951 West Orange high school ring in New Jersey. And I located him in Virginia, and I emailed him and told him that I think I found his high school ring, but I needed him to confirm where he lost it. So he told me that he lost it the next year in 1952, and he gave me the correct part. And I said, okay, I have your ring, I'll send it to you. And he said he was just so upset, losing that. And he just felt, now for him it was more than 50 years ago since the ring was returned. And I told him, I bet you never even dreamed the little baby born in 1952, the year you lost your ring, was going to return it to you 50-some years later. And it's a good feeling inside to be able to do something like that. But I've had a few high school rings I've had no success with, and they're generally women. I've got a 1939 and 1941 ring, and it's just like impossible. Yes?
I'm assuming that you could like check inscriptions and do things like that, and have you had any luck that way?
Well, the only luck I've had locating people have been those 2 high school rings. And I've tried, and I have a friend that's pretty good at searching people. I don't know how he does it, but he helps me find them. But those are the only 2 we've been successful with. The wedding bands with an initial or a date, it's just impossible. A high school ring with only one initial, an S on it. How many towns in New Jersey or in the tri-state area start with an S? It's impossible.
Do you get this a lot too, Ray, where someone will come up to you and say, when you're about to take, oh, I just lost my keys, will you help me find them, or I just lost this, or I just lost that?
I have looked for specific things, not on the spot. I've never had someone come up and say, I just lost this, can you help me? But I have had people come to me and ask me for help. My wife's matron of honor, her brother, gave a beautiful ring to his girlfriend, and they asked me if I'd look for it, and they thought it was on a baseball field. And we got there, I brought an extra machine for him to use. I'm not going to let him just sit there and watch me, put him to work too. And they were playing a baseball game, and I said, well, okay, while they're playing, was there any place else you were? And she said, well, yeah, I was playing practice catch with him down here. So we went down there, and after about 5 minutes, I found a ring. It was so nice looking. I was really hoping it wasn't theirs, but it was theirs, and they were thrilled. And I got a nice Italian dinner out of that. And I would say, out of looking for specific things that people lost and asked me, I've been successful 3/4 of the time. and the other quarter, they're not really certain. Well, one time they found the necklace, but never hit the ground. It was suspended in a bush that they were. So if it's not on the ground, I'm not going to find it.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's always great to help people out like that. And there's every piece here like has a story. That quarter, this quarter of a pistorine, the last person to touch this before me was wearing buckles on their shoes and a three-corner hat. They lost it, and I'm the next owner. So I've got a provenance all the way back to the 1700s on this coin. Things, like for instance, this piece, I found this in Pennsylvania, and at the depth I found it at. Once you find enough coins in a field, you know what the age is of certain depth levels. And this is about the Civil War time period, and this is actually a locket with half a piece of glass there. But in the back, see if it focuses, it has hair, and I assume human hair, behind the glass. And I suspect that probably, or I fantasize, let me say, maybe a Civil War soldier had a lock of hair and put it in this and gave it to his girlfriend or wife before he got shipped off down south, and she lost it, and she was brokenhearted over this. I could only imagine the tears that must have poured out when she lost this, and no way to return it, though, even to a family descendant. No way to find out whose it was. But pretty much for everything, nobody's really going to miss a quarter or a dime or something like that. Every piece of jewelry that's found, though, somebody really missed. I wish I still had them. I had some religious medals I found at Lake Apacon. They were from the World War II time period, and they were in the shape of a cross. But on the back of them, they had a soldier, Army Air Corps Army, and a Marine on there, I guess for protection. And they were, I'm sure, given to the military for safety as they went overseas. And obviously they came back if they lost them there in Lake Apacon. Well, I think that's, there are a few other things. I do find a fair amount of live bullets, and here's some of them. That 45 caliber, the large one there, actually has a date on it. It's military, it's from 1917. I found that in the county park. But most of the live ammunition I find, surprisingly, is on school grounds, and it's, that is a little scary. It's why it gets there, but most of it's deeper. It's not modern. I'm thinking probably in the 40s or 50s is when most of the ammunition I've found has been lost on school grounds. Something else you can tell about our society is the amount of junk you pull out of the ground. If you get to the level from like 1940 and older, there's very little junk, and junk that would have been thrown away. From World War II and more recently, we are a littering society. and it's quite obvious in the ground, and I'm sure future archaeologists will make note of this too in 1,000 years from now when they dig up our park grounds and school grounds, and they'll find that out. Or else they'll be watching this video then. Okay, let me stop there with what I have. How about all of you, any questions? Oh, you must have tons of questions. Yes.
What about the depth? What is it, about 9 inches, 8 inches, usually?
Again, it depends on how strong the machine is. The depth has a lot of factors involved. The ground conditions.
If it's like a clay soil, say like clay
okay.
in Pennsylvania?
Well, generally when you come into clay, that's below the dirt level.
Yeah, you got that.
And all the artifacts will stay on the top of the clay and be at the bottom of the dirt. So clay, you don't find too much deep in clay. That's normally shallow. But if you get a nice, well-maintained ground with average water drainage, you can find a quarter down 10 inches, 12 inches, something like that. The problem is retrieving the deeper targets. You have to be careful. The deeper it is, the more difficult it is to make sure it's nice when you leave and that you don't damage the ground. Also, don't go out metal detecting if it's a drought and it's been not in the ground. If it's dry, you cut a plug, regardless how careful you are, it's going to die. So go out after it's rained or when the ground's in nice shape, the plug's going to retake and live. Yes.
Beach-related stuff. When's I guess the good time to go is at low tide. Do you have any? Because I'm closest to the beach, so that's where I like to go. Do you have any beach tips?
I haven't done as much beach hunting as I should. I actually have a trip with a couple of friends scheduled down near you in October. But you do need to watch the tides, and I would go more or less at high tide and then work the beach as it goes out. If you go at low tide, it's already out as far as it's going to go, and it's going to start coming back in again. So I would go before it's low tide, so then this way you have more time to detect out there. And from the little experience I have at the beach, if you look for areas where the sand is cut, where you see gravel and stones and shells in a certain area, that means that the heavier stuff is up near the surface in there. But you never know what you're going to find. I was on a 50-year-old school ground. Actually, the school asked us to come in and find some artifacts for display for their 50th anniversary. And all of a sudden, on the ball field, we started finding coins from the 1600s. William, Mary, all three Georges, and James II. And it was a lot of fun there, but you wonder why.
Where did they come? Right, it wasn't the school that was there.
Right.
What was there?
Well, one of the women that I was metal detecting with, she had a friend that's a pilot. They had a little private plane, and they flew over the area. And from the air, you could see that diagonally across the ball field was a little sunken area, which was probably a colonial road, and it went off up into the mountains. And so something was there in colonial times.
Back to one more point about the beach thing.
Yes.
You make a good point about when there's cuts like that in the beach, or when there's an area that's washed out. After the most recent hurricane, after Irene, there was a lot of cuts like that where the water will run off the mainland and run out, and you'll see these deep cuts in the beach. And those are the spots to go, because it's going to take off a lot of the sand, sometimes 10 and 20 and 50 years worth of sand. And it's like going back in time to search those low spots you might not normally see.
Well, the beach is a constantly evolving thing where sand and materials are brought out and back in and out and back in. So it doesn't necessarily have to be deep to be old. The ground is a different story, where if something's lost, the ground gradually builds up over it, a little sinkage involved. So you can find things right up in the dunes. I've had friends find Spanish silver coins up in the dunes and away from the water. So you never know what you're going to find wherever you go. But if you do take your approach and you analyze where you're going and study it and figure out the most likely place that you're going to find what you're looking for, that would be it. You have a detector, I assume?
Yes, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you find something.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get out as much as I would like, but I love
Yes.
it.
Since you're touching on the beach and you're talking about the erosion, you'll get more of them with the reefers. So capture that name in your mind, live for it. I hate to say it, we live for destruction. Their woe is our gain, and if the moment they open up the towns and let you back in, you can have. I've gone off a 5-foot cliff, drops that much, and that's a ton of sand missing.
Yeah.
If you don't even have a metal detector, you can walk that beach, you look down and you see these gray discs. They're usually silver coins. Didn't cost you a penny.
Wow.
Just bend over and pick it up. But
right.
yeah, with the detector, you're already exposed 4, 5, 6 feet sometimes. Even if it's 2 feet, it's closer to the targets than you were. And it's further than your machine would have detected.
Right.
But, you said the word dunes. Please, do not touch a dune.
Oh, well, you don't
You'll
get
be
into
fine.
protected areas, yes.
If
But
the
no,
dunes
certain
are
ones, right.
alleviated,
as
Yeah.
far up as the beach goes.
Right.
yeah,
You don't
you
go
can go right up to
protected
the dune, and usually there's a fence at the dune.
Right.
But after this destruction, that fence is gone and most of the dune. So the dune doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
It's usually brought, and a lot of that's been pumped up. It's brought back and it's strewn back across. It's yours, if there's no dune left.
Well, he brought out a situation that I can recall now. I was in a park with a friend of mine metal detecting, a little tiny strip park along a road, and there's a little stream, and on the other side of the stream was like a hill going up to a railroad tracks. And I hopped the stream, went on the other side, and I saw these little discs in the ground. And evidently the runoff from the train station washed away the topsoil and just left coins there. And I was picking up Mercury dimes and Roosevelts and Buffalo nickels.
Isn't that fun?
Oh, it is. Yeah, it goes a lot faster than swinging the coil back and forth. It is fun. But every trip out, you never go out and come home empty-handed. Even if you just find a few quarters or something, you'll find something out there. And every trip is like a mini adventure.
When you do go to parks and stuff, Ray, do you, is that a situation where you just, or do you ever go spontaneously when you're driving and you have a little bit of extra time and you see a spot, for example, a park like that? Do you have to get permission to do that, or you just kind of go out spontaneously?
Well, you need to know your area. Sometimes there's city regulations or county regulations. Some county, I think Union County, New Jersey, requires a permit. You need to know where you are and what's available, and if it's okay or if you need to seek permission. When I was younger, I used to always carry a fishing rod and a metal detector in my truck, just in case of an emergency.
Right.
You know, you see that pond, and you see some fish jumping in the back there.
Pull over.
You know, it's the same thing with metal detecting. There's some fields you just look at them and they say, there's some good history here.
Yeah.
You do have to be careful with the extreme temperatures, especially in your trunk. The
Oh.
heat and the cold can just blow those circuitries. Just
Right.
be aware of that.
Yeah, it's not so much the circuitry as it is the coil. The coil has a number of different coils inside that's in a potted type of material, and if your trunk gets very hot, that can warp and deform,
Right.
and it'll probably still work, but it's going to affect your precision and your depth. It just takes away the efficiency.
Is that your best coin, your rarest coin that you showed us, the one that was cut that you found?
Oh, no, I don't know what my rarest coin is. I found I think it was a 94.0 Barber dime. I've never kept track of that. I collect colonial coins,
Right.
and that's my main hobby. And most of the colonial coins I find are copper, and they come out pretty cruddy from King George,
Right.
all the Georges. And, the Spanish silver that I find was every bit as colonial as anything around. That's what circulated for the most part in our colonies. And silver comes out of the ground looking about as good as the day it was lost, unless the ground happens to be muddy or wet, or if you find it in a lake. Then silver comes out very black and sometimes corroded. Silver at the beach can come out corroded too. Here's that's a quarter found at the beach.
Barely tell.
And you get a,
Yeah.
you get a quarter that's, if you look at the thickness
Wow.
of the two, that's how much can wear away.
Wow.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I am thrilled that there were some people that came to listen to me, and I hope I've inspired some of you to maybe consider metal detecting, or might have gotten a few ideas. And I appreciate the veterans that have been doing this as long or longer than I have being here too. But like talking about coins and talking about metal detecting, I'll talk to anybody who's going to sit down and listen. I'm telling the photographer that if he and I were the only ones here, I would have gone through the whole thing too. It's a fun hobby, and I love to share it with people. So,
Great job, Ray. Fantastic. Great job.
take a look if you like.